Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Bill, the company's expert. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about picking the right product, the importance of picking a product that the market demands. Because the big question on everybody's mind is that if you are starting a business, whether that's a small business or a startup or a side hustle, what should you do? What you want to do here is pick something that's going to maximize your chances of succeeding. Because after you pick something, all the money, time, and effort that you pour into this project, you want it to pay off. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. We're also going to take a question from one of my awesome viewers/listeners, and we're going to answer that later in the episode, all about pricing. But first, before we get into that, I just want to remind everyone that I have two YouTube channels, The Company's Expert and The Company's Expert 2. And for right now, this podcast is going to be on The Company's Expert 2, but I may decide to put some episodes on my main channel. So make sure you subscribe to both my channels so you don't miss an episode. And the first question that I should probably answer just right off the hop is why you should listen to me. Well, for what it's worth, I've been a CEO of a small company. I have an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, and I have been a advisor for many entrepreneurs, many startup founders, and I've led several startups to success. And I've also started my own companies too, back 25, 30 years ago, and led them to success. So that's where I'm coming from. So hopefully this makes sense. Now, let's get into it, okay? Picking the right product. Now, a while ago on my main channel, I did a video about products versus services. Okay, you could decide to be a company that does products, or you could decide to be a company that does services, or you could find a sort of half and half middle ground kind of approach. Software is generally regarded as sort of a half and half hybrid kind of thing because it is technically a product, but at the same time, increasingly as we go into the future, it is also considered a service. It's something that you're continually updating and something that you are having to listen to your customers and respond to their needs and so on. And if you look at the way the business behaves, it behaves more like a service than a product. So we talked about that. What are the pros and cons? The bottom line is that services are easier to get into, to start up, because basically if you can provide a service, you really don't need as much capital investment. You don't need as much money to get started. You can pretty much start almost immediately. Okay. And if you really want to take this to its logical conclusion, it's like starting a company that mows lawns or clears snow from driveways, things like that. You know, on the low end, it's very, very simple to start those kind of companies because all you need is a shovel or a lawnmower, and that's pretty much it, right? Not that hard to get a foothold into that business and start making money. A product company tends to be a little more capital intensive. That means that you have to put more money into it in the beginning for things like developing the product. Usually to manufacture something, some kind of product, you need tooling, you need inventory of materials, and that takes more money to get the thing up and running. So those are the pros and cons of that. But the main thing that I want to talk about in this episode was what specific thing should you choose and how do you know you've hit upon the right thing? Well, in order to answer this question, we're going to turn to the world of marketing and a little bit to the world of economics. Okay? Now, I think YouTube is actually a great illustration of this principle. Okay? Because I think it's a safe assumption to say that all you guys that are listening to this, you are somewhat familiar with YouTube because you are listening to this video on YouTube. So I can hopefully safely make that assumption. Now, in YouTube, the way the YouTube works is that you could do a video on a certain topic, and you could do the world's most amazing video on a certain topic. However, if it's a topic that not many people care about and not many people are searching for, then your effort will largely go unrewarded because You might have the most amazing video ever. It might have taken you $100,000 to make that video and everybody loves it. But the problem is nobody's looking for videos on that topic. Conversely, you might have another topic that everybody cares about and everybody's searching for. And you don't have to necessarily make an amazing video on that topic, but because by virtue of the fact that everybody is looking for it, you will get a lot of views. Okay. And as I say, YouTube is a great place to visualize this concept. Okay. And that is the importance of market demand. Now, I've worked with a lot of startup founders and a lot of small business owners. And one thing that a lot of them have in common is that when they decide to have their own business and to become self-employed, they tend to decide what they're going to do based on what they would like to produce. Okay? It's not necessarily about what the market wants. It's about what they want to do. Okay? And that can be a fatal flaw in the success of your business, because at the end of the day, you need customers who demand your product. It's just that simple. They have to be wanting the thing that you're producing. It's just that simple. And a lot of small businesses and a lot of startups have failed simply because of that fact. The problem is that these people might be very competent and be very talented, and they can produce an amazing product or an amazing service. And they do it in a very intelligent way, in a very efficient way. They are very good at marketing. They're very good at operations. They're very good at supply chain. They're very good at obtaining financing and doing the accounting and every single thing that you need to do in a business. They're really good at it. The problem, though, is they're producing something that no one has asked for. And that is where they fail. I can't tell you how many startup founders I've been asked to consult in and brought in to advise, and I've spent many, many hours in private session with them, just sort of going over every aspect of their business and their thinking and their goals and, all this kind of stuff. And it's like the issue is not in those kind of details. It's an issue with the very idea of what to do in the first place. And it turns out that they're trying to, what's the expression? They're trying to sell a refrigerator to an Inuit or an Eskimo. You're not supposed to say Eskimo anymore. Inuit. They're trying to sell a refrigerator to a penguin, put it that way. And this is a problem. This is why they fail. It is nothing to do with their abilities. The problem is with the market, okay? Now, hopefully everybody knows what marketing is, okay? A group of businesses is called an industry, okay? A group of suppliers, businesses, is called an industry. And a group of customers or potential customers is called a market, okay? Marketing is the study, the scientific study of customers, groups of customers. And in marketing, you basically think of three things. You basically do marketing to answer three important questions. Okay. One is, who are my potential customers? Okay. Give me some details on these people. Number two, what message should I send them that will best convince them to do business with me? And number three, what channel should I go over? How am I going to communicate that message to my potential customers so that they receive it and they do business with me? Okay, so who are my customers? What is the message? And how am I going to convey my message? How am I going to reach them? Okay, that's what marketing does. Now, the beginning of any business operation has to be marketing. In some way, shape, and form, you need to prove that the demand is there. Okay, that's like the very first step. Now, I say this, and I know I'm going to get several people pointing out to me famous examples of celebrity entrepreneurs and celebrity business people that, the official story is that they just had a vision of something and they didn't test the demand first. They just figured I'll build it and then they will come, and they built it and they came. And they're going to point this out to me and they say, nope, you see, you're wrong. You don't have to actually test demand before you do something. If you believe in yourself hard enough, you can do anything. And to that, I would say, crap. Absolute crap. Yes, you do have a few exceptions that get lucky, right? And some of these are famous examples. However, what you're not hearing is the other 99.9% of companies that fail because they haven't done this. Okay, if you don't know that demand exists for your product, then it's very, very risky to go ahead and produce your product if you have no idea if people are going to be there to buy it or not. A lot of times, I've worked with entrepreneurs that, they just sort of assume that once I offer this thing for sale, everybody's going to line up and buy it. The product will be right. People will immediately see the value of the product, and they will feel that the price is reasonable, and they will instantly realize that they need that product. They have to have it, and they're going to pay the price. And it's a good idea. And that just isn't how things work. Now, unfortunately, this is a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs have to learn the hard way. Okay? What they end up doing is they produce a product because it's fun to produce a product. And they offer it for sale, and nobody buys it. And they can't repay the money that they've borrowed to produce the product in the first place, and the entire venture fails. Okay, this is a typical scenario. A lot of people learn this lesson the hard way. The next time around, they tend to be a little more respectful of some of the principles of business, right? And this is the first one. So you can do whatever you want in your business, okay? If you have a passion to do a certain thing, that's great. That's great. And I'm certainly not trying to dissuade you. I'm here to encourage you to do that, because if you can do things right, you can succeed. All I'm saying is that whatever that thing is, you have to think of it from the point of view of the market. And it might be necessary to tweak it, to do it in a certain way. And that will follow the demand of the market, okay? For example, I'm just going to try and make up an example off the top of my head. Let's take pizza, everybody's favorite thing, okay? Now, pizza. Let's say you know how to cook pizza at home, and you enjoy cooking pizza. And in fact, you've received a lot of compliments on it from a lot of your friends and family, and you think, you know what? I do like cooking pizza. Everybody seems to like my pizza. I should go into business making pizza. Now, this is not a stupid thing. This is the beginning of potentially something really great. Okay? However, let's think about this for a second. Pizza. What would that product look like? Well, you could have a restaurant that serves pizza, right? That's probably the default thing. Alternatively, you might not have a sit-down restaurant, but you could have a drive-through service or a delivery service that serves pizza, right? You order your pizza online, bam, it's right at your door. Okay, that's another potential product or service that involves pizza, right? Alternatively, you could become a pizza supplier to existing restaurants. All the existing restaurants, they'd like to offer pizza on their menu, and it might be a little cost ineffective for them to cook pizza from scratch in their restaurant. So you could say, look, buy your pizza frozen from my company. I'm a supplier of frozen pizza. I make the pizzas. They're awesome. And if you want pizza in your restaurant, you already have customers that are wanting to order this, buy it from me because I make the best pizza. Okay, that would be another form of it. Or alternatively, you could sell your frozen pizza directly to the customer by getting your frozen pizzas into grocery stores. So when people go to buy their groceries, they can buy your frozen pizza directly. They don't have to go to a restaurant for it. They don't have to order it like a takeout service. They can just buy it frozen and then heat it up at home. Okay, so I mean, I could go on. There's many, many variations of how you can go into the pizza business, right? This is what I'm saying. Okay, so there's many, many ways that you could turn an idea like pizza into a product or a service, okay? Incidentally, the universal term is offering. Offering could either be a product or a service or a combination thereof, okay? So your offering could look it could be in many different forms. There's many different possibilities, okay? You could come up with a new form of pizza that no one has ever seen before. It could be a pizza drink for all I know. I mean, there are almost limitless possibilities here, okay? But the big question is, which form of this product would have the best chance of financial success for you? Okay, ultimately, one of your goals, if not your top goal, is to make money. And it has to make certainly enough money to justify itself, to cover its costs, and a little profit would be nice, right? Certainly if you can't make your money back, then the whole thing dies, right? So the question is, what should you do? Now, this is the point of the operation where a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't think through the marketing implications of what their offering is going to be. Okay, so in order to do this, you've got to look outside yourself. It no longer becomes about how passionate you are about making pizza and what could you do. Now you got to look outside of yourself. You got to look at the market. Okay. Now you can start by looking at how many restaurants there are that serve pizza. You can look at what the demand for pizza is. Now, these are things that you will be able to get data on just on the internet. Okay. This data exists. Okay. The number of restaurants that are in your region, your location, okay, within a certain amount of distance from, where you live, that is available usually on government websites like government economic development websites. I am located in Canada, and you would go to the federal government website. They have a sub-site called Statistics Canada, and within Statistics Canada, you can run queries on, for this region, how many restaurants are there, what types of restaurants are there, of those types of restaurants, how many employees do they have, how much money do they bring in, et cetera, et cetera. All that information is there, so you can get some idea of economics, of the economics of this product, okay? How many people buying pizza are there? Okay, and who does it? You can look at businesses by business code, basically. This comes in different, in different countries, they call it different things, but basically each industry or business is got a number. So if you learn what is the number for a restaurant that serves pizza, you can run queries and you can get information on this stuff, okay? Then you can go out and you can go to have your finger on the pulse of the restaurant business. You could have your finger on the pulse of the grocery store business, okay? Go talk to a couple of managers at grocery stores and say, your pizza products, how does it work? What's the demand? Is this something you're looking for another supplier? If you, are there any complaints you have about your existing pizza products? Is there anything you would change about them, et cetera, et cetera? Are there like flavors that people are requesting that, your current supplier doesn't provide? Blah, 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 right? You can go outside of yourself and you can get this information, and this will help inform you of what you should do. If you discover that there's a certain type of pizza product that one pizza store is selling and it's a smash hit, and nobody else is offering that flavor or that type of product or that form factor, or maybe it's freely available but not in your region, that might be a market need. And if you come along with the right product at the right place and talk to the right people and say, hey, I got this thing, you will be amazed at the demand you can tap into. And now you're on your way. So it's very important to take the market into consideration. That's the point I'm going to make here. Now, I'm going to take a question here. This is a question from a viewer, and I hope I'm saying this person's name correctly. Rishat Baltaev. So Rishat says, thanks for the video. It's really great. My question is how to find the balance between the price and the value of a product/service in the competitive market. Thanks. Okay, so how to find the balance between the price and the value of an offering. Okay. That's an excellent question. Now, a lot of times you would try and get data on this. Okay, for example, in the example I was talking about pizza, you can go to the grocery store, you can see how much they're selling their existing frozen pizzas for. If they're not selling frozen pizzas, you could see what their prices of their comparable products are, things like this, okay? You can do the same thing for restaurants. And beyond that, beyond being able to be able to get data on things, you then would probe the market. Okay, so that means you basically try something and see what the response is, okay? But before I did that, as I said, I would try to have my finger on the pulse of this industry. And what I mean by that is if you look at the grocery store business, or you look at the frozen food business, or you look at the restaurant business, there are lots of resources out there that you can access on the internet just for these industries. For example, usually these things will have an industry association, okay, which is a sort of organization that coordinates that industry. Sometimes, depending on the industry, they have trade shows. So it's like a big event where all the food manufacturers go down to, and it's almost like Comic-Con. Everybody's got a booth, or a job fair. It's almost like that too. Everybody's got a booth, and you go down there, and because you're a business, you're allowed in, and you can see all the players in that business, whether they are suppliers, whether they are clients, whether they are middlemen, essentially, whether they are service providers, whether they are contractors that sell the tools, or they sell software products that help you manage your pizza business. All the players in that business will be there, and it's a great frame of reference where you can get information on that business. If you want to talk to all the producers at once, you can go there. And usually they'll have trade shows once or twice a year, depending on what industry you're in. They'll have trade show publications. So in the old days, these would be in the form of magazines. You could go and you could go to the plumbing trade show, and get the Plumber magazine, where they review everything in the plumbing industry, all the latest products that are coming out, all the players in the market, all the customers, all the new regulations that are coming in for plumbing, whatever. So whatever you're into, whether it's pizza or plumbing or any other specialized thing, you will be able to usually find an industry association for it, and then you can join it. And that will allow you to get all the information you need about what's going on the inside of those industries. It also allows you to approach those companies and have conversations with them because you're legitimate, right? So that's definitely a thing, okay? So back to Rishat's question here. What's the balance between price and value? Well, the thing is, depending on how you do this, your price is going to be related to your cost, okay? So if you have to pay a certain amount of money for the ingredients, let's go back to the pizza example. If you're employing what they call a cost plus strategy, you're going to take your cost of materials and your cost of labor, and then you're going to mark it up by a certain percentage. So let's say it costs you $10 to make the pizza. Well, your price would be $10 plus a certain percentage. So say 20% profit margin. In some cases, it'll be 30%. In some cases, it'll be 5%. But you add that to your cost, and that becomes your price. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Another one is value-based pricing. Okay, that's another way to price things, where you don't price it based on your costs. You price it based on the value it has to the customer. Okay, so let's say that normally a meal for, a family of 4 would cost $100, right? But let's say your pizza can substitute for that, and your cost is only $40 to make that pizza. Well, if you are a substitute for something that's $100, maybe your customers might want to pay $80 for the pizza, depending on how good it tastes, right? So it has nothing to do with your costs, as long as it's higher than your cost, obviously. You can mark it up from $40 to $80. Now you're making a 100% profit there, right? So that would be value-based pricing. It's not based on cost plus, it's based on the value it has to the end user. And in that case, it's a substitute for something that's $100. So $80 is a reasonable selling price for it, no matter how much it costs. Okay, so those are some examples of what you could do there. But basically, Rishat, to answer your question, you've got to see if you can get economic data, and then beyond that, probe the market. Okay, you could do market research, and you could ask a few of your customers, some questions. How much would you pay for this? How much do you think it's worth? Things like this. And then beyond that, you can look at what type of pricing scheme you would like, whether it's cost plus or it's a value-based pricing scheme and there's more besides. But hopefully that helps. Now, for anyone, I just want to say, for anyone who is interested in this kind of thing, I highly recommend that if you're going to start a business, the best way to succeed in business is to understand business. And the best way to understand business, as far as I'm concerned, and I highly recommend this, is for people to get themselves a qualification in business. And the industry standard qualification for understanding business is an MBA, Masters of Business Administration. Normally, this takes you a couple of years at university and sometimes up to 5 figures for you to obtain this qualification. However, you're in luck because I have a course called the $100 MBA, and you can access this by looking at the link in the video description box for this video below, and you can check that out. You learn everything that you would learn in an MBA, but it only costs $100 because it is non-accredited, and it's non-accredited because you don't take any tests. There's no evaluations. You order the textbooks, the same ones you'd be using in university, some of the same ones you'd be using if you went to Harvard or Yale. It's the same textbooks, and you read them of your own accord, on your own schedule, at your own pace, to the depth that you're interested in. And that's how you can learn business, but save yourself 2 years of your life and 5 figures, and do this in a way so that you will be forearmed and forewarned of how to succeed in business. If you want to learn something, study your craft. And now you want to talk value-based pricing. I worked for a client a while ago, and on my very first meeting with them, I had advised them, I said, don't do this particular move that you're wanting to make. Instead, do this other thing. And they listened very politely and then ignored me, went ahead and did this thing that I advised them not to. And they made a mistake that ended up costing them $40,000. Now, I was charging far less than that for my time, but for my time that I was charging them for, if they had listened to me, they would have avoided a $40,000 mistake. So what is the value of my time? Well, if it's cost plus, you could take my time and add 30% to it. Or you could say, well, in that 2-hour meeting, if you had listened to me, it would have been worth $40,000 to you, right? If you're going to be in business, learn business. This will pay off for the rest of your life, especially if you have the ambition of being a business owner or an entrepreneur or a startup founder. So I highly recommend that course. Check it out. Thank you for listening. You guys are awesome. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care.